Okay, I have no idea about your background, and I need to calibrate a little bit to know what I'm going to tell you about. So please, and can I see a bit of the light on people? Please raise your hands if you work with computers. Oof, nice, that's great, because otherwise I don't have anything to tell you about. Okay, now raise your hands if you program, if you code. Okay, that's great, because also I wouldn't have anything to tell you about. Now, if you have ever worked with Python, please raise your hands. Okay, if you have ever heard of FastAPI. Okay, and if you have, this is better. If you have worked with FastAPI, like have used it a little bit. Okay, cool, nice. Thank you very much. This helps me calibrate. Now, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about, well, first a little bit about FastAPI. Sorry. They promised you sun in Malaga. They didn't tell you it was inside of the room. Now, let me turn on the laser pointer. Okay, a little bit. I am Sebastián Ramírez. I am from Colombia. That's why the accent. But I live in Germany. You can find me online. I created a bunch of open source tools. FastAPI, Typer, SQL Model Syncer. We're going to talk about FastAPI. I'm also building FastAPI Cloud. This is a product that I'm going to briefly mention. But first, checking a bit about the audience and the background. Actually, wait. I have to start the timer so that I don't extend too much. I have too much content, so I'm going to cut. I had to cut in the middle or at the end. I'm going to have to cut someplace. We're going to spend a little bit more time just talking about FastAPI itself, because a bunch of people will probably not know what it is. So a little bit about FastAPI. FastAPI is an open source web API Python framework. Thank you. I probably messed up something somewhere. Okay, nice. So this is FastAPI. FastAPI has been growing quite a bit. It's currently the backend framework with the most GitHub stars. After that is Django, then Gin, then Laravel, and then there's a bunch of others. So that's why they brought me here. You probably are asking, like, why is this guy there? Like, the fuck. But yeah, this is why I'm here. So FastAPI has currently 3 million downloads, 20K docs users. This is daily. So it's around, like 90 million downloads a month. This is more than the population in UK. So it's quite a lot of people downloading FastAPI, which I'm very happy about. It's been increasingly, like growing in the Python community. It's been growing over the years. Also in the Stack Overflow developer survey across like different programming languages. And like, like they mix backend with AngularJS and like everything mushed together. But anyway, it's growing quite a bit. So nice, FastAPI stonks. This is good. People are using FastAPI, I guess. Another way to see about FastAPI is like which companies are using FastAPI in one way or another. You might recognize one of those logos. Also, you might recognize these pictures from the space telescope that they took. So they take a bunch of measures from the telescope, and that has nothing to do with FastAPI. Then they send that back to Earth, and then in Earth, they transfer the science communication. The science, you don't have to read it. I'm going to just say it out loud. Yeah, they transfer the science data throughout the world using FastAPI. So it's like, oh, super cool. I have no idea how that works, but it's super cool. They also use it in OpenAI for like a bunch of the internal things. They released an interview right yesterday or something saying how they are using a bunch of FastAPI for all the ChatGPT images, the new feature to generate images, which is like super cool, I think. They also use it to simulate galaxies, and simulating these galaxies that led to observing the first quasar. I have no idea what that means, but it sounds super cool, so this deserves a slide. They also use them to control particle accelerators, like the Large Hadron Collider. So of course, there's a bunch of additional tools, a bunch of additional things, but FastAPI is the API layer between like people and the particle accelerators. So if you ever see like a black hole in the sky or something, maybe create an issue because maybe I did something wrong. Now, let's actually jump to working with FastAPI. I want to show you a little bit of how it feels like to work with FastAPI, and we're going to build an app. And now, this is what we are going to do. So in the FastAPI docs, there's a bunch of badges. So we're going to build one of these, the API for one of these little badges. In the FastAPI docs, there's a section about the questions that people ask, and people ask so many questions, and I would like to have a badge to say like how many questions have been answered of the total questions, so that like we can optimize that thing. So we're going to talk to the GitHub API to get that information and then expose that in an API. This is what we are going to do. So we're going to start with, I know that not all of you are using Python, so we're going to start from scratch. And this is a live demo, which is a very bad idea. Never do this at home or at conferences or anywhere. I was practicing this yesterday, and can I just not have notifications right now? Anyway, I was practicing this yesterday, and this was the name of the project I was using. Live demos always fail, because they always fail. You're going to see everything crash spectacularly, but I have a bunch of backups of screenshots, so you can see like what was this supposed to look like. Now we're going to start from scratch. So we're going to close this one. And I'm going to create a new project. Can you see that well, or should I increase the zoom? Maybe is that better? OK, I will assume silence means yes. Nice. I'm going to go to my code directory, and then I'm going to make the J on the beach. And this is where we are going to work. Set the J on the beach. Nice. We're going to start just like live doing this whole thing. So in case you don't have Python, a good idea to have Python is just to install UV. So we're going to go to UV, not the docs installation. UV is this new tool to manage packages and to manage Python in general, and we can use it. Oh, on internet is not super fast, which is sad and inconvenient. OK, let's resort to not use the internet. OK, no, yeah, it loads. So this is how you could install it in Macs or Linux or Windows. That's how you will install UV. I'm not going to run this here because it's probably going to be a little bit slow. Then after we install that, let me check my Copialina here. Yeah, do we have? Yes. Sorry. OK, is that better? Yeah. I bet my, oof, sorry. Are you deaf now? I am, OK. It's probably my mustache is doing something wrong with the microphone. I'm very sorry for that. Should have got it before. Yes. This is, yes, perfect. No, now we're just going to code here. So I'm going to start my editor here. And let me increase the font a little bit so you can all see. Can you in the back see that well? OK, nice, great. So I'm going to start the terminal here. We're going to use UV to create a Python virtual environment. If you have ever used JavaScript, it's equivalent to the JavaScript node modules or something like that. So UV init, let's just say this like this. This is going to create a few files here. I'm not going to update this right now. So we have a pyproject.toml. This is how you configure. I'm teaching everything like from scratch for Python. I'm sorry for the ones that already know all this stuff, but like, you know, like for all the other people that have not seen the line of Python, we have to show that. Nice. Now we're going to say UV add. We're going to say FastAPI standard. So we're just going to install the regular FastAPI. For the demo that we are going to do, we're going to use some preview thing. So I'm going to install something else, but you will not have to install this afterwards. Now, this is what we're going to do. We're going to create a FastAPI app. So this is just the plain thing that we have by default when you create a new project with UV. Now we're going to remove this, and we're going to start creating a FastAPI app. So from FastAPI, we import FastAPI, and let GitHub Copilot do half of the work. We're going to create an app that is an instance of a FastAPI class. And then we say app.get, and I'm not going to do async. So we're going to say get root, and we're going to return message hello world. OK, nice. So this is this using the correct virtual environment? Yes, this is the correct one. This is a fully fledged FastAPI app. Now we're going to run this. So let me activate this virtual environment so we have the correct Python. Let me explain what that means before that. Look, I don't know what that is. No, deactivate. If I say here which Python, it's going to tell me the top level Python that I have on my machine. After activating the virtual environment, and if I say which Python, is going to tell me, hey, you're using the Python that is inside of this virtual environment, so I have all the packages that I just installed, which is what I want. Now I can run the command FastAPI dev, and this is going to start the development server. Let me move this a little bit so you can see. So this is starting the development server. If I wanted to run this in production, I would use FastAPI run instead. So the development server is live reloading the API as we change the code and things like that. Now, this is serving at this location, and we also have this URL. So we can open this. If I remember how to click, yes. Now you're blind again. I'm very sorry about that. I should have done something about it. I didn't expect to have the sun inside. OK. I should probably increase the font size. I guess you can see that right? OK. So this is automatic. That's a good idea. Someone just put the sunglasses on. Like, yeah, well thought. OK. This is Swagger UI. This is an automatic docs UI that you get for your API based on the code that we just wrote. So if we go back to the code, this is all the code we have, and this is the automatic API that we get. We can try it out here. We can execute that, and then we get the response. So we not only get the documentation, this is interactive, so we can use the browser to explore our own API. Now let's change that, and let's say no hello world, but hello Jay on the beach. Yes. I save this, and once I save it, the server is reloaded automatically. So if I go back here and I execute again, now I get the new response here. So this helps, like developing and like iterating quickly and being able to do all the stuff. I'm going to extend a little bit on FastAPI itself because there's a bunch of people that didn't know much about these things, so it could be useful. So let's say that we want to add some parameter. So app.get item ID or something like that. We can just, let's just show this like this. So we can say, OK, we're going to have a new path operation or a new endpoint that is going to be a GET request. This could be post or could be put or anything. And we're going to receive items, and this item is going to have an ID. This ID is defined in these curly braces. And this is how we are telling, hey, this is a path parameter. And then we define it in the parameters inside of the function. And we say, hey, this is going to be an integer. This is the way that you do it in Python. This is the standard way to define what is the type of some variable. So we are saying, hey, this is going to be an integer. This item ID is going to be an integer. And it should be extracted from the path parameters. Then we have another parameter, q. This is not in the path parameters, so this is going to be extracted from the query parameters. So we're saying this is q is going to be a string, or it could be none. By default, it's none. Because it has a default value, then it's not going to be required, which is what will happen in a function in Python. And then we are just returning it. Now we save this thing. This is going to be reloaded automatically. We go back here, and I will keep blinding you, and I don't know what to do about it. I'm very sorry about that. OK, if I reload this page, now I have this new section in my automatic API docs. So I can try it out, and I can pass an item ID here. If I say foo, this is going to complain, hey, this is not an integer. You need to put an integer there. OK, let's put, well, 42 is a good integer. Let's execute that, and then we get the response, and the query is null. If we pass something in the query, bless you. We have something in the query, then we get like the response back. So we can interact live with the API as we are building it. Now let's say that we want to define some body data that we want to receive. Pydantic is built on top of something called Pydantic. FastAPI is built on top of something called Pydantic. And Pydantic is in charge of doing all the data validation, data serialization, and data documentation. So from Pydantic, we're going to import a base model. And then we're going to say class item. This is going to be a class that inherits from this base model. And then we define the attributes that we want to have. And this is just, again, using standard Python syntax for declaring types. You can also say something like tags is going to be a list of strings, but can be none. Or actually, you can say it's going to be a list of strings that by default is just an empty list. And Pydantic takes care of making sure that even if we define here that this is an empty list by default, it makes it all work. There are like some caveats with defining lists or lists as default values, but like Pydantic takes care of that. Now we're going to say we want to create an item. So app.post items, and then we can say create item. We say this parameter is going to be an instance of the class item. So again, we are just using standard Python type annotations, and then we can just return that. And if we save that, then we go back to the docs, and then we reload this page. Now we have a new endpoint, post create item. So we can try this out, and we can execute this, and we get the response back. Now here is the nice thing, and this is the coolest part, I guess, of FastAPI, is that if we, for example, we don't pass the name here, we just execute it like this, we're going to get an automatic error telling us exactly where the problem is. So we are missing, inside of the body, we are missing the field name. And this field is required. And this was the input that we passed. So we define the data shapes that we want in standard Python and with Python type annotations, and we get data validation, data documentation, and serialization by default automatically. And this goes even down to the internal data. So for example, let's see. In this case, let's see that we have tags is going to be a list of strings. What happens if we pass something that is not like that? So let's say this is not a string. This is going to be an object that has a name, and the name is papa frita. I really like papa fritas. I don't know what's the thing against papa fritas. For those of you that don't know what papa frita means, it's just fries. And fries are great. Belgians know. OK, if I execute this, I'm going to get a response telling me, where is the problem? So it's inside of the body, and inside of the body in the field tags at index 0, so this is the first element, the input should be a valid string. So we get data validation no matter how complex our data structures are. OK, nice. This is talking about FastAPI in general, just to give you a little taste of what FastAPI is, how it is like. Let me check how am I in time. OK, good. Now we're actually going to build an app with this, so we can remove all this stuff. This was just to give you a taste of how it is to work with FastAPI. Now what we are going to do is that we are going to use the GitHub API. I just want to kill this. Yes, we're going to use the GitHub API. So we're going to create a new file. Actually, let's first explore the GitHub API. So GitHub Explorer. GitHub has this UI. To explore their API, they have two flavors. One is just REST, just sending HTTP stuff and getting regular stuff. The other one is GraphQL. They have some things that are only available in one, some things that are only available in another. They are a huge organization, so they end up having like all this mess, as we all do. But anyway, we're going to try this out. We just have to sign in with GitHub. This probably works. Nice. Let me cut this to give you an example of how this works. So we're going to do a query. This is just like this GraphQL particular syntax. We're going to say repository, and we can say the owner is going to be FastAPI, and the repo, what was the name? Is going to be also FastAPI, and then we can query stuff here. So this is like parameters, like as if we were calling a function, and now we're going to say what is the response data that we want to get back. So let's say like stargazers count. This is a simple one. So we can execute this, we run that, and we get in the response, we get the same data shape that we defined here. So we have inside of the data, we have the repository, inside, which is here, and then we have the stargazer count, which is here. So that works. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to add this other query that I had before. So we're going to ask for some specific repository, so some owner organization or user, then some specific repository, and we are going to ask for specifically for questions, for discussions in GitHub that have not been answered. So let me show you a little bit what these discussions are. So FastAPI, if we go to the FastAPI docs here, there are discussions here. And is that font too small for the back? I think it's probably fine. OK. Nice. So there's a bunch of discussions here. We can filter by the ones that have been answered. So there's a bunch, and we can filter by the ones that have not been answered. And there's quite a bunch there as well. But there's no information here of how many are we missing to answer. You know, like how many have we not given some response? So this is what we want to have. We want to have a badge showing how many questions are still there to be answered, to be able to put that badge here. This is what we are doing. So we are asking GitHub, hey, I'm gonna give you some repository. No, don't show this. Okay, I'm gonna give you some repository name, and from that I want you to go get the discussions, and I want to filter by the ones that have been answered or not answered, and give me the total count of those discussions. These things with $signs, these are gonna be parameters that we pass, like variables that we pass here. So we're gonna say that name is gonna be FastAPI, owner is gonna be FastAPI as well, answer is gonna be true. So we're gonna get the discussions that have already been answered. We execute this, and then we get the response back that we would expect. So there have been like 2,000 something that have already been answered. Now, if we say, give me the ones that have not been answered yet, then we get another number, so telling us like which ones are still missing an answer. This is what we are gonna use. So I'm gonna copy this thing, and I'm gonna put it here. So actually here, no, let's create another file so we can test it out. Call github.py, and then we're gonna say what did I do? GraphQL query is gonna be this long thing. Nice. And we're gonna say define, well, this works. Define get GitHub discussions count. I like to have types. So owner is gonna be a string, name is gonna be a string, answer is gonna be bool that by default is false. And now we are gonna import the library that you would use to do HTTP requests. So import HTTPX, and then we're gonna say here, response is gonna be equal to HTTP post. This is pretty much it. So we're gonna say, we're gonna talk to the API from GitHub. We're gonna send a JSON data. Inside of that data, we send one field that is a long string inside of JSON that has the GraphQL query. So GraphQL goes as an embedded string inside of everything. Then we say, what is the name of the repo, what is the owner, and if we are asking for answer questions or not, because these are the variables that we were defining. We are not gonna do this headers part yet because we wanna see how that works. So let's order this format, and then we're gonna say print response.status code, no, print.response.text. Let's just do that. And now we're gonna say if name, blah, blah, blah. So this is the way that we are telling it, execute this script as the main thing if it's called as the main script. And we're gonna say get GitHub discussions not for Microsoft. We're gonna say owner is FastAPI, name is FastAPI, answered is true. Actually, let's just return the JSON. Return response.json, yes. And now we're gonna get this data equals this, and then print the data. Nice. This is what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna try. We're gonna try to run this here. So we're gonna say Python, call GitHub, and then we get a response saying like, oh no, the API rate limit exceeded for this specific IP, but authenticating requests get a higher rate limit. So we can authenticate the requests, and then we're gonna be able to do that. To do it, we can create a GitHub token. So we are gonna create a token right now. You're all gonna see my token, and this is terrible, never do this live. Yeah, but I'm gonna delete it later, so it's fine. This is just a read-only token, so it's fine. I'm going to settings, personal access tokens, fine-grained tokens, and here I'm gonna generate a new token. Yes, use the passkey. Okay, the token is gonna be called J on the beach. Yes. This is just gonna have access to read stuff on my name. This is not gonna have a way to write anything. But this is all we need so far. What? What happened? Generate token. J on the beach. Pull repositories, generate token. Why GitHub? So GitHub is the one failing here. And this is crazy. It should be showing me a screen where we can see the actual token so we can copy paste it. But it's not doing that. Token name. Test 2, strike 2, strike 3, I don't know. Do you have a better name? Maybe utils. It's not really doing it. Come on, GitHub, you can do this. It's not here, it's not here. You can see I have a lot of tokens. This is so annoying to manage. This was something I didn't expect. But I expected the demo to explode at some point. I didn't expect it to explode at GitHub, not giving me a token. That's crazy. Anyway, I had another token for the test that I was doing that was probably here somewhere. So let me try to find that so we can reuse that. That probably works. This is the point where we are just improvising. And like, I will start sweating and blushing. And yeah, let's see. I had one that was called Live Demos Always Fail. Maybe this one. Did I have the token here? I didn't have the token here. Let's use another old token. CD code. I think I was doing another demo. This one. Yes, I have another token. This is what GitHub would have given us if GitHub was behaving correctly. Anyway, this is what we're going to use now. We're going to set, OK, this is the token. Never write a token in plain text inside of your code. Never do this at home. But it's going to be useful for the demo now. So we're putting it here. Now we're going to say, like, we are going to have some headers, and we are going to pass a bearer token in case any, wait, let me close this. Yeah. In case any of you doesn't know, so this is standard HTTP. This is a standard HTTP header. This funky syntax of saying better with a capital B, space, and then passing some string. This is also standard. There's like an RFC, like a standard for that. I think it's super funky, but like it's still a standard. So now we're passing a header with the token for GitHub. If we run this thing again, Python called GitHub, now we get the response that we were expecting. We get the total counts. Nice. This is great. Now, we shouldn't be putting this token here, so let's just create another file, env or something like that for now, so we can move the token there just for bookkeeping. What we will do is that we will read the token from environment variables or something like that. So we're going to say token is equal to os import that.get env GitHub token. Yes. Now we have a token here, and now we are using the token there. The token is not written in the code, and we will not commit it. We can run this again, and this is failing because we are not passing the environment variable. But if we say GitHub token equals to this thing, where is it? Here. And we pass that token there. Now we can keep reading the stuff. Nice. We have something that we can use to get the data. And let's do something. Let's make sure that it always breaks or like has an error whenever there's no correct response. OK, we are quite close to ending. Perfect. So we're going to do, although we started a little bit later. But yeah, anyway. Response dot raise for status. So this way it will fail with an exception if something is not working. So we call it like this. This is just going to fail. We're going to import that here. So from call GitHub import get GitHub discussions, and now we're going to create an API here. App.get. This is going to be counts with an owner and a name, and we're going to say define get counts for the repo owner and the repo name, get counts of discussions. And now we're going to get the unanswered data. This is going to be answered equals false. And then we're going to get also the ones for the answered data. And now we can say total is going to be, wait, no, actually unanswered. This is going to be the total count, which is this thing. So this is going to be an integer. This thing at the top. This is going to be a JSON payload, like a dictionary with stuff inside. This is going to be an integer with a total count. And then answer is just the same. And we're going to say total is equal to unanswer plus answer. This is the total thing. Now we're just returning this, and we're returning the data. Okay, this is great. And if we run this thing again, FastAPI dev, I was going to show you how it errors out if we don't set the token, but we're going to skip that. GitHub token, this was pretty much it. And then we're going to say FastAPI dev. So we're running this in development mode. Now we have this. We can say, hey, I want to get the thing for FastAPI. FastAPI, give me that data. And we get the response back, so we have an API for that. Now, actually, we ended up talking much more about how FastAPI works than deploying, but let's try to do the deployment quickly. So FastAPI login, I'm going to show you, this is an alpha preview of something that we are working on and is most probably going to explode in my face, and it's probably going to be super bright for you and make you blind again. So we all suffer the same. But anyway, I'm going to authorize this login. So I just hit FastAPI login, authorize this login. Nice. Now I'm going to do, let me scroll. Yeah, now I'm login. FastAPI deploy. I want to set up this app. Yes, set up this app in Sebastián. Yes, do you want to create a new app? Yes. The name is J on the beach. Yes, that's good. Do you want to set environment variables? Yes. Let's say GitHub token. This is going to be equal to, where is this thing that we have here? To this. Yes. That's all we have. So this is uploading the deployment. We're going to see if the internet holds. So this sent the data to our cloud. And now it's installing and building the, like doing all the stuff with the containers and all that. So it's building all that stuff there, deploying it to our cluster, to our cloud, to like our whole thing. And then we get back this URL, jonthebeach.fastapi.cloud.dev. Before we go there, let me go and check here in the apps. I have a bunch of demo apps here. J on the beach, here's this one. So we have like a bunch of stuff here. We'll have some logs in a little bit. And if I go and open this here, we should see the response, details not found. So we can go to the docs. Counter. The owner is, so we are looking at this. This is live. This is already deployed. This is already on the cloud. So I think this already didn't explode, which I'm very happy about. Like I was really expecting it to explode. Fast, because live demos never work. FastAPI and then FastAPI. This is the repo that we are getting data from. And we have an internal server error. Oh, dang it. Yes, live demos never work. There's something I didn't set correctly. We're going to have some data here in a bit. Yes. Information. Oh, I set the token incorrectly. Oh, dang it. Let's see. GitHub token. So I have to edit this. Let's see. Am I using GitHub token? GitHub token. Yes, that's the name. Is the value here. GitHub token. Save. Actually, let me make sure that I'm putting it correctly. GitHub token. Let's run it locally again, just to make sure. I probably set it wrong. FastAPI. FastAPI. Execute. So it's running correctly locally. Let's try to deploy again, just in case I did something wrong. Maybe we'll get to see it explode. And yeah, it was victory too early. Too sad. I promise you it will work one day. Huh? In my laptop? What? I didn't hear it. There was something in my laptop. Works on my machine. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, works on my machine. I'm going to ship my machine to you so you can try the thing out. We execute it again. Where, I don't know, at some point I put the token incorrectly when I was setting the environment variables. Now I'm getting the response back, the thing that I wanted. So it's working. Now it's working. I was just configuring something wrong. I don't know what. Now, I don't know how much time we have. This is what I wanted to show you, how we can use this thing. So we're going to create a badge for that thing. This is not a static badge. I have some badges here. We're going to have a dynamic JSON badge. So we can say, OK, what is the URL for the badge that we want to get? It's going to be this one. So we're going to put this URL here. What is the query that this is a JSON expression, so we're going to see total. Let's say that. We execute this. Yes, custom badge, some number here. This is the total questions answered. But I actually want to show a specific message saying there are so many questions, or like something like this. Yes, but no, not this. So we're going to say this is going to have the answered over the total. Yeah, something like that. So we can say that. We can say FastAPI deploy again. We can deploy this thing. And now what we are going to do is that we are going to extract the message instead of the total, so we can put the message in the badge. So here we should be able to say message, if this is already finished deploying, hopefully. Let's see, yeah. And now we have the custom badge. This is what we wanted to build. I had a lot of slides. I have 5 minutes left. I had a lot of slides to show you how to deploy FastAPI on other clouds and how to handle HTTPS and a bunch of other things. But I ended up spending a lot more time just telling you how to use FastAPI in general, because I think it could be very cool to consider it for some of your other projects. Let me see. Did I have anything else that I wanted to show you? I had a bunch of memes in case the demo didn't work. At least I will have a way to entertain you. Yes. OK, like this is something important. If you are deploying FastAPI on your own, you should. Well, I have a lot of docs in the FastAPI docs to explain a lot of that. There's a lot of things that you should have in mind. They have been there for like a very long while. It's just that normally deploying things is quite complex, so that's why we ended up trying to build this product to make it super simple for people to just like deploy apps. Instead of like spending a few hours building an app and then 6 months trying to deploy it, we wanted the deployment to be as fast as learning how to build the app. Still, if you want to do it on your own, you should check out like these ideas. You should make sure that you have good security, so you have HTTPS by default, that you have stuff. You make sure that it's running on startup. So, for example, like you could have like, I don't know, Docker set up to run the thing whenever you are starting the machine, that it handles restarts, that it handles replicate. Well, replication is going to be harder if you don't use like a cluster system like Kubernetes or so, but like that is, there be dragons. If you're not already there, it's a hard topic. Handling memory, handling previous steps. There's a bunch of things to have in mind, but you can read a lot about that here because we won't have time to cover all the stuff. Or you can also play around with FastAPI deploy, which is the thing that we are building right now. Like we just announced it last week, and we're going to start getting beta invites soon. I don't know if we have like, 3 minutes or something for questions, because I don't think we're going to have a chance to talk much about the other things. These are some of the tools that you can use to handle HTTPS, but you can read all about that in the documentation. I think that's what we have time for now. I'm going to be around in the hall, so you can just like ask me anything if you see me around. I don't know if we have time for questions, or if we have questions at all.
Yes. Hi, everyone hear me? Thank you, Sebastian, for your talk. Can we have a round of applause really quickly before we do questions?